Are cosmetics formulated for darker skin? Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Let's talk about something many overlook, yet millions live with every single day: the relationship between the cosmetics industry and darker skin tones. The beauty industry has always held enormous power. It defines standards, it influences self worth. But when those standards are built on exclusion, the effects go far deeper than lipstick or foundation. For generations, people with darker skin tones have struggled to find products that match their complexion, cater to their skin's specific needs, or even acknowledge their presence. Ask someone with richly melanin. Major cosmetic brands that shaped global beauty trends largely failed to develop inclusive shade ranges for decades. Foundations came in limited colors, typically ending with medium or tan at best, leaving individuals with deeper complexions with no suitable options. Even when darker shades were released, they often carried incorrect undertones: too red, too orange, or too gray, revealing a lack of proper research and testing. These offerings weren't created with care or specificity. They were often afterthoughts, produced for the sake of appearances rather than a genuine commitment to diversity. This lack of inclusion sent a powerful message to people with darker skin: you don't belong in this version of beauty. It told generations of Black, South Asian, Middle Eastern, and Indigenous women and men that their skin tones were a deviation from the norm. As a result, many learned to mix and match products, buy multiple foundations, or settle for tones that didn't quite match. Others resorted to DIY methods or simply stopped using makeup altogether because nothing felt made for them. The industry's neglect was not only aesthetic, it had practical and psychological consequences. The inability to find basic beauty products led to a sense of erasure and frustration. It reinforced harmful messages about desirability, self-worth, and visibility. Children growing up without seeing their skin represented in cosmetics learned to internalize the notion that their beauty was somehow less valid. Meanwhile, the lack of product innovation for darker skin also stunted opportunities for skincare tailored to specific dermatological needs like post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or keloid scarring, which are more prevalent in melanin-rich skin. This history of exclusion was further compounded by the absence of people of color in decision-making roles within beauty corporations. The lack of diverse voices in research and development, marketing, and leadership meant that many of these companies lacked the lived experience or cultural understanding necessary to even recognize the gaps in their products. Without representation in the lab or at the boardroom table, brands continuously overlooked crucial details that would have allowed for better inclusion and product development. Even when brands began expanding their shade ranges in recent decades, many of those changes were reactive rather than proactive. Often, they came after public backlash, social media pressure, or the rise of more inclusive indie brands that expose the shortcomings of legacy companies. Instead of setting a new standard through leadership, large cosmetic corporations followed the trend reluctantly, treating diversity as a checkbox rather than an integral part of philosophy. The impact of historical neglect in formulation extended beyond complexion products. Lipsticks, blushes, bronzers, and even highlighters were designed with lighter skin tones in mind, often failing to complement or even appear properly on deeper skin. A shade that looked subtle and fresh on fair skin might appear washed out or unnatural on darker tones. This created a cycle of trial and error for many consumers of color who were forced to spend more time and money to find what worked for them. Or go without. The cosmetic industry's past decisions weren't merely mistakes of convenience. They reflected deeply rooted assumptions about whose beauty mattered. It wasn't until the emergence of vocal consumers, independent Black-owned beauty brands, and online communities that the narrative began to shift. These forces disrupted the idea that the standard customer was fair-skinned and made it impossible for major brands to ignore what had always been true: beauty comes in every shade, and cosmetics should reflect that reality. This means that products formulated without these specific sensitivities in mind can unintentionally cause more harm than good, leading to discoloration or persistent marks instead of improvement. Additionally, darker skin often has a more compact stratum corneum, the outermost layer of the epidermis, which can affect how products penetrate and interact with the skin. It may also produce more oil in certain regions, making it more susceptible to acne and clogged pores if occlusive or comedogenic ingredients are unused. Despite these factors, most cosmetic and skincare formulations in the past have been developed using data from lighter skin types, with little consideration for these biological differences. The result is a mismatch between what melanin-rich skin needs and what the average product delivers, leading to frustration, wasted money, and unmet expectations among consumers of color. On top of that, darker skin tones often respond differently to sun exposure, aging, and environmental stressors. While higher melanin content can offer some natural UV protection, it doesn't make sunscreen unnecessary. Yet many SPF products leave behind a visible white cast on deeper skin, making them aesthetically unappealing and discouraging consistent use. Furthermore, the signs of aging, such as sagging or loss of elasticity, tend to appear differently and later in darker skin. However, since most anti-aging products are marketed with lighter skin concerns in mind, such as fine lines and wrinkles, they frequently fail to address the concerns most relevant to darker complexions. These unique physiological attributes require tailored research, targeted formulation, and product testing that goes beyond surface-level inclusion. When cosmetics and skincare products are developed without considering the unique needs of darker skin, the consequences can go beyond simple disappointment. They can cause real harm. One of the most common issues is post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, PI, a condition where even minor irritation or acne can leave behind dark marks that linger for weeks or months. Products that contain harsh exfoliants, strong fragrances, or high concentrations of alcohol can easily trigger this reaction in melanin-rich skin. Yet many mainstream formulas are filled with these exact ingredients because they were originally tested on lighter skin types that don't exhibit the same sensitivity or long-term pigmentation changes. Another overlooked concern is how certain active ingredients behave on darker complexions. For instance, treatments that include hydroquinone, benzoyl peroxide, or retinoids must be used with caution, as they can easily cause uneven tone, excessive dryness, or rebound pigmentation if not properly balanced. When products aren't formulated with darker skin in mind, consumers are left to experiment with trial and error, often at the expense of their skin health. Instead of feeling empowered by their skincare routine, many people with darker skin tones end up managing side effects caused by formulas that weren't designed with them in mind. Even something as basic as sun protection becomes problematic due to industry oversights. Many sunscreens on the market leave a visible white or purple cast that doesn't blend into darker skin, making users feel self-conscious or aesthetically displeased. This discourages regular application, leading to greater risks of sun damage and worsening of hyperpigmentation. While the skin of individuals with higher melanin content may not burn as quickly, it is still vulnerable to UV-related damage, particularly in the form of dark spots and uneven tone. The lack of cosmetically elegant, invisible sunscreens for darker skin is a clear example of how the industry's neglect isn't just about what's included, but what's excluded. One of the most visible and frustrating issues for people with darker skin tones in the cosmetics and skincare world is the persistent problem of white cast, especially with products like sunscreens, moisturizers with SPF, and certain primers or setting powders. The white cast occurs when active ingredients, such as zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, sit on the surface of the skin and fail to blend into deeper complexions. These mineral-based compounds, while effective at blocking UV rays, are not micronized in a way that allows for seamless absorption into melanin-rich skin. As a result, even a small application can leave the skin looking chalky, grayish, or ashy, creating a stark contrast against its natural richness. This problem is not merely aesthetic. It creates a psychological barrier to skincare adherence. When consumers feel that a product makes them look unnatural or visibly altered in a negative way, they're less likely to use it consistently, even if it's beneficial. Sunscreen, for example, is essential for preventing hyperpigmentation and long-term skin damage, especially in darker skin where pie is common. But when available options make people feel self-conscious or mask their features in an unflattering way, those products lose their practicality. The issue becomes a matter of dignity and respect. Products should enhance natural beauty, not mask or diminish it. Despite advancements in formulation, many mainstream brands still fail to prioritize the cosmetic elegance of SPF and skincare products for people with deeper skin tones. While some newer products have emerged claiming to be invisible or universal, these claims often fall short when tested on a wide spectrum of melanin-rich skin. The solution requires more than repackaging existing formulas. It demands innovation and intentionality in the research and development phase. Only by truly considering how ingredients interact with all skin types can brands deliver products that meet the needs of a diverse customer base without compromising appearance, comfort, or efficacy. The consistent exclusion of darker skin tones from cosmetic formulation is not simply a technical oversight. It reflects a deeper systemic bias about whose needs are prioritized in the beauty industry. For decades, the standard consumer and product development meetings, marketing campaigns, and shade range decisions was imagined as someone with lighter skin. This narrow perception shaped everything from foundation formulations to the models featured in advertisements. It wasn't just a matter of convenience or cost, it was a manifestation of the belief that lighter skin was the default, and everyone else was a niche market. This kind of structural bias silently but powerfully influenced what products were created, how they were tested, and who was deemed worthy of representation. Such exclusion sends an implicit message that people with darker skin are secondary consumers, or worse, an afterthought. When major brands routinely launch foundation lines with 20 light to medium shades and only 1 or 2 deep tones, the imbalance is glaring. It reveals a hierarchy where diversity is tolerated, but not deeply integrated. Consumers of color are expected to adapt, mix, or compromise, while lighter-skinned consumers enjoy the full range of product benefits. This unequal experience erodes trust and reinforces a long-standing feeling of invisibility that many people with melanin-rich skin have had to live with across multiple industries, not just cosmetics. Moreover, the bias doesn't end at the product level. It extends to the workforce behind the product. A lack of diversity among chemists, marketers, dermatologists, and executives means that lived experiences with darker skin are often missing from key decision-making processes. Without people of color at the table, products are developed without first-hand knowledge of what darker-skinned consumers actually need. Bias becomes embedded in formulation, packaging, testing, and advertising, not necessarily out of malicious intent, but from systemic neglect. Systemic neglect. Correcting this imbalance requires not just inclusive branding, but inclusive thinking and leadership at every level of the beauty industry. In recent years, there has been a noticeable and powerful shift in the beauty industry, fueled by consumers demanding broader, more inclusive product ranges that serve people of all skin tones, especially those with darker complexions. Social media platforms, beauty influencers, and everyday consumers have used their voices to spotlight the lack of representation and the repeated neglect by legacy brands. Viral reviews, side-by-side comparisons, and boycott movements have held companies accountable in a way that traditional media never did. This bottom-up demand for equity has disrupted the old norms and made it impossible for brands to continue operating in exclusionary ways without facing public backlash. This rising demand is not just about having more foundation shades. It's about being seen, respected, and considered. Consumers are asking brands to think beyond token gestures and to commit to inclusivity in formulation, testing, and marketing. They want assurance that darker skin tones are not only included in product launches, but are actually a core part of the development process from start to finish. This push has led to the rise of niche and independent brands founded by people of color, who are creating products specifically for underrepresented skin tones. These brands aren't just filling gaps, they're leading innovation, setting new standards for what thoughtful, inclusive beauty should look like. Large corporations are now playing catch up, realizing that the market is shifting and consumers will no longer accept a one-size-fits-all beauty. In response to public pressure, many have begun expanding their shade ranges, releasing inclusive marketing campaigns, and forming partnerships with creators of color. However, savvy consumers can tell when a brand is making a genuine effort versus when it's simply checking a diversity box. The demand for change has evolved beyond superficial representation. It calls for authentic inclusion, transparency in product development, and accountability from companies that profit from diverse audiences. This momentum shows no signs of slowing down, and brands that fail to listen will continue to lose relevance and trust. True inclusivity in cosmetics doesn't start with advertising. It begins in the lab. The science behind product formulation plays a critical role in determining whether a product will work effectively and safely across different skin tones, especially for people with darker complexions. Inclusive science means going beyond adjusting pigment levels. It involves understanding the unique biology, sensitivities, and dermatological patterns of melanin-rich skin. For too long, research and clinical trials in the beauty and skincare industry have been disproportionately focused on lighter skin types, leading to formulations that often fail to meet the needs of a broader population. Without comprehensive data that includes people of all ethnic backgrounds, the science behind beauty remains incomplete and inequitable. Formulators and cosmetic chemists must approach product development with intentional diversity, testing products across a full range of Fitzpatrick skin types, a classification system that ranges from very fair to very dark skin. This helps identify not only how ingredients interact with melanin-rich skin, but also how various actives affect issues such as hyperpigmentation, acne scarring, and inflammation, which manifest differently in darker tones. Additionally, stability and appearance, such as how a product blends, reflects light, or sits on textured skin, can vary significantly based on melanin content. Science-based inclusion also means considering cultural skin practices and common skincare concerns among different racial and ethnic groups during formulation, making products both relevant and effective. Implementing inclusive science requires brands to invest in research teams that reflect the diversity of the consumers they serve. It also calls for partnerships with dermatologists of color, increased funding for inclusive dermatological studies, and a commitment to transparent ingredient education. When brands build inclusivity into the scientific foundation of their products, they create items that serve broader audiences without compromise. It's not just about representation, it's about results. A product can only be truly inclusive when it has been scientifically designed to work well for everyone, not just those who fit the industry's historical mold of ideal skin. Representation in the beauty industry goes far beyond who we see in advertisements. It influences how products are developed, tested, and ultimately, how well they serve a diverse range of consumers. When people of color, especially those with darker skin tones, are underrepresented in decision-making roles, such as product formulation, marketing, executive leadership, and dermatological research, it results in products that don't fully meet the needs of the global population. A team that lacks diversity may unintentionally overlook critical differences in skin behavior, cultural preferences, and aesthetic expectations. By contrast, when brands involve people of color in these core processes, they gain firsthand insight and lived experience that lead to more thoughtful and effective product development. Moreover, inclusive representation builds trust. When consumers see people who look like them behind the scenes, chemists, brand founders, dermatologists, and creatives, they feel more confident that the products were made with their unique needs in mind. It's empowering to know that your concerns were not just considered, but prioritized from the very beginning. Representation also helps challenge long-standing beauty standards that have historically celebrated a narrow ideal. By elevating diverse voices in every aspect of the industry, from laboratory research to boardroom leadership, the beauty world begins to reflect the real world, and that makes all the difference in how consumers engage with and relate to the products they use. Inclusion in the cosmetics industry cannot be reduced to marketing campaigns or product packaging alone. While representation in advertisements and social media is important, it often only scratches the surface if the products themselves do not truly cater to the diverse needs of all skin tones. Skin tones. Many brands have been criticized for a performative inclusion, where the outward appearance of diversity is emphasized without making substantial changes in product formulation, ingredient selection, or clinical testing. And this kind of superficial inclusion creates a disconnect between the message and the reality, leading to consumer skepticism and mistrust. True inclusivity must be embedded in every phase of product creation, from research and development to quality control, ensuring that every product launched is genuinely effective and safe for all complexions. In closing, the question of whether cosmetics are truly formulated for darker skin is more than a technical inquiry, it's a call to action. It challenges the industry to recognize the diversity of beauty and the science behind it. It urges brands, scientists, and consumers alike to demand products that are thoughtfully designed, tested, and marketed with everyone in mind. Because when beauty becomes inclusive at its core, it empowers individuals, honors identity, and reshapes the narrative around what it means to be seen and celebrated. Let us continue to push for innovation rooted in respect and understanding, to elevate voices that have been overlooked, and to celebrate every shade with the care it deserves. Only then can we say the cosmetics industry has truly fulfilled its promise to enhance beauty for all without exception.